Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. This is Michael Hatzis here with Garnish Music Production. And today is Thursday. We got the 25th of March. Beautiful day out here in New York. Starting to get those nice warm temperatures. A little bit of sun today too. And I figure what better thing to do than to come out here and stream some Ableton with all of you, right? All right, so what do we got on the plate today? So today I wanted to get into delays, most specifically the echo effect. All right, so I want to get into the echo, and we'll talk about delays, we'll talk about what they are, what they do, how you could capitalize using them, and why they're amazing. And then we're going to get into how to use the echo. All right, we'll probably start off checking out the original delay just to see, just to get to grips with delays and all that stuff. So yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just check the chat, see what's going on. All right, let's do that. All right, very good. So let's get into a delay. All right, so I have this project here. It's a remix I did for Gem, etc., etc. And it's like a Moombahton kind of thing, dance hall, that thing, festival kind of do that. Well, let me play the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing, but just so you get an idea of like what we're working with here. Alright, so we got one part there. We got like a big ass build up. Big build up, and then we have like the drop part. And let's just go into the drop. Oh, what do we got? Let me just. All right, so yeah, so that's basically what we're working with here. All right, and is what it is, but very dry at this point. Okay, I went in, took out all the reverbs, all the delays, all that stuff, just to make it sound as one-dimensional as possible. And throughout the next couple series or next couple videos, we're gonna jump in and try to add some more space and dimension to this work of art right here. Come on, right? Beautiful song. All right, maybe not, but yeah, so let's jump on in. So what is a delay effect, right? So if we look at Ableton, all right, let's just go here. Yeah, one cool thing is, if you're on 11, I'm on 11. There was, let's see if we could do this, right? They come like this now, which, yeah, it takes me a little time getting used to this kind of stuff, right? They're all grouped together. So if you want to ungroup them, you just right click any of these folders and just choose group, and then you get the live 10 and previous kind of view where everything is just slapped up in the folder. All right, so just a little tip there for some people. All right, so let's go into the delay. I'm going to start off with this intro section here. Let's see, right? Some of the melodies. We got this like little 8-bit, and then we got this little heavier kind of sound, right? Little stacky stack, just to kind of add a little bit of variety to the sound there. So back to the delay, right? So let's just put it on this one, just because it's easier to hear. All right. And yeah, you see I got some effects on here. Nothing really. I'm rocking out massive, some EQ, and that's basically it. All right, so the delay. So basically, like, the delay is really simple. It's just something that delays a sound. Okay, that's really all it does, right? So what I could do here is, let's just take one of these. Actually, we're not even gonna do that, right? It just delays the sound. I'm just gonna run through this quickly. Sorry about that. So it's just something that delays the sound, right? And you know, it kind of sounds boring, right? Which, yeah, not too interesting, right? But you got to remember, there's other little pieces to this puzzle, right? So again, what does it do? It just delays the sound, right? So dry wet is basically, you know, your amount of the original signal, right? That's all original signal, no effect added, versus wet being the affected signal, right? So now we're doing 50-50, so we're going to hear the delayed signal, right? So we get like a nice little rhythmic effect, right? So again, right now we're hearing half, you know, the same amount of the dry signal and the same amount of the wet signal, okay? And we can also add some feedback. Okay, so let's take this down a little bit. That's a little bit crazy, but you can hear we got like a nice rhythmic, right? It's got like a nice little rhythmic, right? High-low kind of thing to it, right? Loud, soft, however you want to look at it, right? And then we got the feedback, right? Feedback is basically just sending it back through, right? So what the feedback does is it just sends the affected signal or the delayed signal back through the unit, okay? And, you know, really all you have to know is that that's basically your amount of repeats, right? We can hear it tail off, and the higher the feedback, right, the more the amount of repeats, right? Good way to visualize it is just doing this, right? That right there is feedback, and it's just going to keep going. That's a lot of feedback, people, all right? But that's basically what feedback is. I'm just, you know, sending the signal back it, right? It's the camera's recording it, and then it just keeps recording, and then I'm recording with what's on the screen, and yeah. So that's just an example of feedback. That's what it looks like, okay? Like if you wanted to put like a visual guide there. All right? So yeah. Now again, why would you want to use something like delay? Okay? Well, as we kind of already seen, it gives a nice sort of rhythmic effect, right? That's one thing, right? It just, you know, if you time the delays right, which we'll talk about, right, with these things right here, you could get like a really nice rhythmic effect to add to your sound, okay? Well, what else can you do? Well, we can also add space. We can make something sound bigger than it is, or we can make something sound or have a different feel than it does. Maybe something more atmospheric, maybe something more in the background, right? You know, you got to think, if anyone's ever been to something like, you know, the Grand Canyon or something like that, right? I remember going there and just like hanging over, not hanging over, but at the edge of it, and we're all just talking, and, you know, we just start whistling and stuff like that, and you could just hear it echo all over the place, just to feel how big this space is, right? It's huge. If anyone's ever been to the Grand Canyon, it's insane, like just the size of it, and yeah, beauty of it, that kind of thing. But beautiful thing, great thing to behold. All right, so again, we could just add different kinds of space, feel, atmosphere, that kind of thing. We can make something sound very big, very deep. Okay, or we could, you know, not use delay and have something sound small, or we could use a tiny bit of delay and make something sound small. Okay, we can make things kind of separate with delays as well, right? Most of this stuff goes for reverbs as well, right? Reverbs are great ways to add atmospherics, to add some kind of feel, to add some kind of vibe, spatially, okay? And again, it's just fun. Now, a lot of times, like, you load up something like Massive, and there's going to already be delays on there, or like a reverb, right? So, you know, these tutorials here is just to kind of teach you how to tweak those to get exactly what you're looking for out of the sound, right? It's just kind of like fine-tuning, yeah? And when we fine-tune things, we can make them sound better, and we can make them fit. And I think that, you know, being able to like fine-tune synths and delays and effects and things like that is one of the things that kind of separates like big name producers who don't have ghostwriters, all right, or do their own production. Nothing against them. I'm just saying, from, people who are new to the production game. All right, you could just hear, you could just kind of feel the separation of different elements. You could just hear, like a delay that's in time, or it's not too much, or it's not too little. It's just right? It's just those little intricate details that, really put stuff over the top. Okay. And again, all these different effects, I always look at them as just like spices in food. All right. When you're cooking, if you all cook, right? Say you're cooking like a chicken, you just toss a chicken in the oven and, it's all right. Right? It's not bad, but, it really comes into effect when you start adding different spices, right? Little salt, little pepper. I love the adobo. I'll be throwing some adobo in there. Lemon, you know what I'm saying? Love the lemon too. Some lemon in there, some garlic, right? So again, those little spices, those little effects just kind of really, work together with whatever you're cooking to just add more of that flavor in there. All right. And that's the basic idea with effects. Like, right, I got my chicken right here, which is this massive synth. And then I'm going to go in and add more effects to it. All right, to just spice it up a little bit. All right, now, just like with spicing, you don't want to overdo things, okay? You don't want to go too far, or else, all you're going to taste is that spice. All you're going to hear is the delay, all right? And again, that's why I'm kind of showing y'all how to do this. All right, so we kind of went over what a delay is. We looked a little bit at how this thing works. All right, so again, dry, wet, the amount of the delay, feedback, the amount of repeats, okay? And, there's all these different buttons over here, and, let's talk about a couple more, because again, this pertains to the echo effect, which is kind of like the star of the show today. All right, so let's just talk about this. This is pretty easy, okay? We have the delay for the left side and the right side. All right, so it's a stereo effect, and we could set the delay to 1, 2, 3, 4. And basically what these mean are, these are just the amount of 16th notes you're going to delay the signal. All right, so 2 is going to be 2 16th notes or an 8th note. Let's just put it on 4. So it's just a quarter note, so it'll hit. Actually, you know what? Let's do it in between. So basically what's going to happen is we got the metronome going, and we're going to hear the delay in between the hits of the metronome. It's a loud metronome. Let's turn this up. Right? Little hard to hear, but that's the basic idea. If we wanted to do 3 16th notes or dotted 8th note, right? 3 16th notes or dotted notes are really fun, as are triplets. All right. And notice how, like, when I hit this, it tracks the right side, but we can undo that, and we can have a very, very stereo delay. Like, we could do 3 on one side, 2 on the other. Right, you get that really nice big stereo sound if that's what you're looking for. All right, we're not exactly looking for that on this, so I'm just gonna put it back here. Okay, maybe we are. I don't know. Let's and then finally, all right, we have here is a filter. Okay, we could turn it on, turn it off, and lots of fun stuff with the filters. Right, the basic idea is anytime you see this background, right, we know that it has something to do with frequencies, right? Like the EQ, there's a few other ones. Again, for the sake of time, I'm just kind of like rushing through this. You can always go back and watch it, even in slow motion or fast motion, up to you. All right, so basically, like, what I could do with this is I could just like really carve out which part of the signal I want to delay, right? So if I only want to delay the top of the signal, right? If I want to make it sound more distant or subdued, right? I just delay like the low part of the signal. All right, I'm gonna do something. Again, I need to know how it sounds in context with other stuff, so I'm not gonna like dial in like a final setting. All right, we can also use ping pong, and ping pong is, obviously think about it like a game of ping pong, right? Ball goes from one side to the other, and that's what the ping pong setting does on this here delay. All right? So one delay or one repeat is on the right, next on the left, so on and so forth. Again, we're just going over this one because most of this stuff has to do with any delay out there, okay? And even better, the echo that we're about to check out. All right, that's why I'm kind of going over this. It's kind of like a little bit of a streamlined look at the delays. All right. So you also have a modulation section. Okay, it's pretty basic. Basically, you just have an LFO, and it's just gonna kind of, you know, change the filter. Like it's just gonna do this or the time. Okay, I'm not gonna get too into this now. Let's add a little filter, a little time. You could definitely hear the time. Gives it kind of like, you know, old school tape machine kind of effect. All right, I'm just gonna turn this off for now. And then we have these different modes. Very cool. Yeah. All right. So let's just dial this in now, and then we'll jump over to the echo. And let me just jump here, see if there's any questions. All right. We got Figgy Foss. Says he loves this. Thank you, man. Love you being here. Love sharing the knowledge, man. Appreciate you. All right. So, yeah, so let's get this in there. I think, again, I just have it on this here bro melody. Yeah, again, I kind of like that, but it's a little bit too much for now. All right. I just want like to set up like an initial, right? So thinking about the different elements we have the melodies, and then we have the vocals. Which ones? Nope. And we got the vocals, right? So which need a little bit of work. So yeah, so that's basically what we're working with. Yeah. All right, cool. So again, the basic idea is what I want to do here is I want to make the melody a bit more spacious. There's a bit more stereo to it. And then the vocals, I want them kind of like right down the middle. I'm just going to go with the trends of the day where vocals are just like, bam, right down the middle. Right down the middle and big, right? And just kind of take up most of the space. And then I'm going to do, you know, these different melodies is going to have all the stereo information there. All right, we're going to put some reverb. There's going to be a little stereo-ness on the reverb or the echo of the vocals, but for the most part, the vocals by themselves are going to be straight down the center. That seems to be the way most people are mixing these days, so we'll just stick with that. All right, going to have some tea, and then we'll dive on it. All right. Cool. So yeah, so let's check this out in context. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this at this point. It's just too much, right? You could just hear so much. Right? Is what it is. All right, so let's jump over to this one. And now we're going to jump into, like I said, the star of the show, the echo. Okay? And let's just check out this thing, what it looks like, what it entails. All right? So, yeah, this was one of the first Ableton effects since version 1 that is kind of like a character effect, right? Everything else is just basic building blocks. Okay? You have things like erosion. Okay? Dynamic tube. Okay, I guess that's a tube, right? Cabinet, I guess that's a guitar cabinet or an amp cabinet. Auto pan, guessing that pans, right? You see where I'm getting at. Reverb, not much character, not much different color to this stuff. And then in Live 10, it seems that they kind of broke that trend and just started adding these delicious character effects to the roster, okay? And they killed it with these things, right? So we got the echo, and we got the drum bus, and now we got these resonators, different resonators, the time resonators, spectral resonator, spectral time, okay? And there's a couple more as well. So Very happy about that. All right. Anyway, so again, this thing is there's a lot to it. Okay, basically what this is it is a, right, we get the rolling space echo. Right, so basically it's not modeled after one specific delay. Okay, it's basically modeled off of, the echo is modeled off of a bunch of different tape delays. I believe analog delays as well, like you throw a memory man in there, something like that. All right, but these are like old school delays, right? Before they had like RAM and CPU and stuff like that, they used tapes. Okay, and it's amazing, at the time people did not like the tapes, right? Because it's not really pristine, it's not clean, and it's funny when you look back at, you know, the transition from analog to digital. That digital stuff was very welcome, because again, all these different analog things had artifacts, and different synths wouldn't stay out of tune, and you know, it wasn't as pristine as people wanted. Okay, and now, like, look at this thing. This thing is selling for like, what, £1,000? I don't know what that is in US dollars anymore. Like, who knows what money is anymore? But yeah, it's a lot of money, right? I had one of these once. It was super fun. A lot of fun stuff you could do, right? So the echo is basically based off of this. I'm trying to think, like, if anyone knows Radiohead, okay? So Radiohead, Johnny Greenwood, he used the space delay on a lot of stuff. Like, a good example of that is on Paranoid Android. At the end, when you just hear all that crazy like feedback on the guitar, like right? That's all rolling space echo. There's other stuff on there as well, but you know, that sound is rolling space echo. Another one from that album is, I think it's No Alarms and No Surprises, or Karma Police. At the end, right, when that there's that like feedback part, that's rolling space echo, or part of it. All right, so you know, you can do a lot of fun stuff with these. All right, now the other thing is, you just open the top and you could get your hands in there and get dirty. All right, so you get a couple extra knobs by doing that. So a lot of fun stuff. Okay, so again, the echo is based off of something like this. Okay, also the Watson Copycat. Again, this thing, just to show you, it's like that big. All right, like you could put this somewhere and like eat lunch off of this thing. Like, it's big. Okay, and it's heavy. It's not too heavy, but you know, compared to like little delays we have now, like little pedals. So if something like this, it's also like the Watson Copycat, whatever. There's a bunch of other ones. They just kind of took different features they liked and modeled the sound off of these different analog delays or tape delays. All right. So yeah, so what does all that mean? Okay, so the sound is imperfect, okay? It's not digital, right? So it's gonna have some imperfections. Like I said, at the time, people don't really like, most people, you know, there were some people that had a lot of fun with these things, like Brian Eno, Robert Fripp, and they would just go in there and just, you know, get whatever they wanted out of these things. Just look for ways to hack them, okay? But a lot of people were just like, yeah, I don't know if this is the, you know, most pristine thing. It's kind of dirty sounding. It's not really, what's that? Like high fidelity. All right. But yeah, nowadays, obviously we love them. Okay. Because we love that non-pristineness, right? Those accidents in the media. So, yeah, so let's dig into it, right? So again, we're gonna have some character here, and a lot of the different knobs and features can be found in here, and then some more, okay? Like this character section, you know, there's some really cool stuff. So let's just check out the main interface really quick, all right? And I'm just gonna, again, throw up a delay just to kind of compare and contrast what we have here, okay? So let's just start with the basic stuff. Dry, wet, feedback, okay, right? Pretty basic. Now, this is where we set our delay time. Okay, so the delay time, we could just do it in 16th notes, right? Like this basically, if I switch it to 60, I'm just gonna lock these in, right? So it's the same on both sides now, right? So if we just look at this, right? If we just set it to 16th notes, it's basically the same as this. Like if I hit 1, it's the same as doing 1 there. Okay, so it's just, again, 1/16 note, 3/16 notes, or a dotted 8th note, so on and so forth. Okay, and then we have our filter, right? So we have a little bit more control over the filter because we have a resonant filter, all right, which is a beautiful thing. Right, so we have a 2-band filter, high pass, low pass, and we could hide that. And this thing, right, is just kind of shows you what's going on. Okay, you can actually grab the interface as well. Okay, but this just shows you what's going on. And again, what this is supposed to look like is the echoes and the time. Okay, just like this, right? Again, going back here, bam, right? You kind of see it just trails out, right? So that's basically what this is showing you. All right, cool. And we also have a reverb module, which is cool. All right, we'll get into that. And then we have stereo ping pong mid side. Okay, and just like we have ping pong here, we have ping pong here, and then we have mid side. We could maybe get into that later. Let me know if you want to get into that, right? Mid side is just like a really trendy thing. Well, it was really trendy like a few years ago. Now you don't really hear about it too much anymore, but it's pretty cool stuff. Anyway, Ableton, we can make anything we want mid side, so it's kind of like eh. Now, I was gonna do something, yeah. So, so let's just kind of like dive through some of the presets, okay? And let's just see what we have, right? Because again, presets are just a really cool way to just see what something's capable of, right? Presets are a great starting point, you know what I'm saying? Like just something to tweak, okay? Right? Just something to start with. If you're just, you know, I don't know what to do with this, just start with a preset. Okay, the idea with this is just to show you how to use this thing. So then you have all these different presets available, and then you can tweak them to your liking. All right, so I'm not going to go into the pre-delay. Let's go into the vintage stuff. And let's go with, well, let's just check out a few of these things. All right, so right, so that's pretty big, pretty ridiculous, right? So for me, I hear really big delay, and I hear a lot of reverb, right? So like I said, here's your reverb. Okay, and what we could do here is, this is your decay for the reverb, and right, and then this is your reverb amount. All right, so let's just kind of keep it moving. Check out, right? Very cool, but again, very dark. Right, what we learned from the previous examples, that's probably the filter, so we can make it a little brighter. Right, not bad, not bad. Let's try this one, gated splash. Kind of cool, but again, we hear that the delay or the effect is louder than the original. And then if we look, lo and behold, the dry wet is 67, so we know we're here. If we turn that down, we'll get more of the original sound than the delay. That I like. That's very cool. Okay, that's just kind of like a slapback kind of echo. All right, I'm gonna turn that off, save that for later. Okay, what else do we have? Long tape. Let's give it a shot. Right, cool, but I want a shorter delay. And again, all we hear is the high. A little too much reverb. Right, so again, once you know how to do these things, you just tweak them up to your liking, right? All right, let's check out, let's try some modulated delays. Let's try this one, it sounds cool, hall mod. Love those hall mods in high school, right? That's kind of cool. All right, beautiful, man. We just touch a couple knobs and it sounds awesome. All right, a couple more. Again, then you have, I guess modulated delay. There's somewhere where like the chorus, there's some like chorusy stuff. Clean delay, ambient spaces, modulated delay. I guess that's this flange, right? So we have different things like flangers, delay, flangers, chorus. Because again, a lot of different effects, most modulation effects are built off of the delay. All right, so all right, again, a little dark, a little reverb. All right, there we go. All right, pretty nice. Let's try this here, wah chorus. I could have sworn there were more. Maybe something. What? I mean, I like a lot of these, but again, it's just like they're so dark, man. And again, there's a little too much modulation, which we'll get to. All right. All right, cool. So that's the basic ins and outs, or just checking out some presets, right? Some fun stuff in there. You see how quick it is just to get something really, really, you know, that fits what we're doing just by going through and just touching a couple knobs, tweaking a couple knobs, that sort of thing. All right, once you know what you're doing, stuff gets easier. I know it's kind of a weird concept, but definitely works. All right, so let's go in here, and like I said, this one I kind of liked a lot, and it's kind of simple. Right, and I think it's a good, I'm gonna put this output up. This is just boosting the output volume of the effect. All right, so this is a good one to start off with. And what we could do is just kind of go over the stuff we went over, and then we could jump over to the modulation section. Okay, so this one right here, right, I kind of, you know what, I kind of like the way they had it. I just wanted to add a little bit more highs to it, but now that I'm thinking about it, right, I think it sounds kind of cool. All right, so again, let's check out some of these. All right, I'm just gonna lock these together, and let's check out some other that I kind of dig. All right, so now we're just dealing with straight up notes, right? We have 32nd notes, 16th notes. We could always do triplets, right? So now with 32nd triplets, which kind of sounds even cooler. All right. Now let's talk about a couple more things on the front of the interface. All right, you'll notice that there's like kind of like a swirling effect to the delay, and that has to do with the modulation section. So we're gonna jump over there after we talk about the D. All right, so basically what this thing is we can, it's basically like a clip, right? So we could just clip the input. I believe it's digital clip. All right, that's what the D stands for. Right, so basically what happens is we boost the input and we can get a little digital clipping. Okay, let's just make sure this digital clipping, I hate telling people wrong information. Just distortion. Okay, so not digital, just distortion. It kind of didn't make sense if it was digital, but yeah, so this is just distortion. So it's just gonna clip. So basically the idea is like you have a ceiling set with this, probably like 0 dB, and then you could just drive the input signal, and it's never gonna go any higher than that. All right, doesn't do too much here. Again, it just kind of makes it sound more compressed. Right, which, yeah, all right, cool. For this particular thing, I don't really think it adds too much, but we'll leave it. Why not? All right, so again, this is just gonna like clip the input signal. Okay, and a lot of times it has a really cool effect. Again, if you're into like things like the saturator and the and like compressors and dirty, this is kind of where you want to be. All right, let's add a little reverb. Okay, Let's jump over here, add a little reverb, talk about how the reverb works. All right, so for the reverb, we have a couple different things. Let's turn this up a little bit. All right, so the reverb, we have 3 controls. The first one is how much. All right, 0, a lot. Right in the middle. Okay, the second one is the decay. All right, so how long the reverb decay tail will last. So let's crank it up. Right, so just a little bit goes a long way with this stuff. Again, just like different spices when you're cooking, a little bit goes a long way. And then finally, we have this drop down or chooser, as they call it at Ableton. We have pre, post, and feedback. All right, so they had it set up to post. So let's set it to pre. Basically what this means is like where you want the reverb in the signal path. All right, so do you want it before the delay? Pre. Do you want it after the delay? Post. Or do you want it only in the repeats of the delay? Right? It's kind of interesting, kind of fun. Let's try it before. A lot of times it's not going to make too much of a difference, pre and post, but sometimes it makes a big difference. Right? Not big of a difference. It's a little darker this way, right? And the reason that is because we're doing pre, so what's happening is it's hitting the delay, it's hitting the reverb after, which has a filter. Okay, so it's going to be a little darker with pre, where post, it's hitting it after the filter, so it's adding more of those like high bits, high frequency bits back in. I like post better so far. And then we have feedback. Again, it's just going to show up in the feedback signal. Okay, so in the repeats, it's going to show up. It's not going to be in the original, right? It's not going to be in just the original sound, the dry sound, just in the feedback. Right, kind of interesting, okay, and it's kind of nice if you don't want the sound to be, the original sound to be too wet, okay? So again, it's only going to be in the repeats. I'm just going to put it back where it was. I kind of liked that. Again, it's subtle. Sometimes it makes a big difference, sometimes it doesn't, okay? And then we have a stereo knob, and the stereo knob is basically just like how much stereo do you want on the reverb and the delay. And I'm going to just set this to 100% for now because, you know, I don't really know whether it's going to fit within the other things. Maybe I'll crank it up later. Not sure. All right. Now, so let me just check to see if there's any questions at this point. All right. Laser this sound. Hey, what's good, man? Glad you're enjoying. Thanks for being here. Cool. So, yeah. Moving on. Okay, we just checked out the front panel. Now let's check out the modulation panel. All right, so this is where kind of like more of the special stuff comes in. And totally forgot to turn off the original delay, so let's... So yeah, we're hearing double delay, but what are you gonna do? All right, so yeah, a lot of stereo at this point too, even though I turned the stereo down. Okay, now, one thing we notice, yeah, is that there definitely is some like modulation going on, right? Modulation is just, think of things as just like moving around, right? And we kind of hear, like, to me, it sounds like there's a filter moving around. Yeah, mostly that. All right, so let's get to the bottom of this thing, right? Now, modulation section. So basically what we have here is we have an LFO, okay? And we have an envelope follower, okay? We could sync the LFO to the clock, or we could just set up raw hertz, just like this one, okay? Now this one, this specific LFO, we can do similar things at this point, right? All right, this is just like a big brother to this LFO, okay? Like this one, you can sync it, and you know, you could, you know, and filter, which is filter there. Okay, and then you could kind of play around with the shapes and offset them and stuff like that. All right, so it's just, again, it's kind of baby, and there's the big brother or sister, however you want to look at it. All right, so let's check it out, and let's kind of just go through and just tweak different things. So let's say we set this to 0. I'm sorry, not that one. Say we set this to 0. Okay, let's check out what happens. Right, a little bit less, and I believe that has to do with this. Wow, I'm I'm not doing well today. So I had this on as well. Sorry about that, people. Let's go here and check out the modulation section. All right, this is the one that's doing the modulation. Apologies. All right, I was working on this one, and it turns out that this one is the one doing the modulation. Just for that. So again, let's just dry, wet. All right. So again, apologies for that. You know, if shouldn't really matter, but yeah, we're working on a different one. I wanted to show you this modulation section, and I wanted to, you know, just use one of these presets to kind of dial in what we had. And I was tweaking the wrong one. That's I was wondering why it wasn't, you know, changing, but anyway, here we go. So again, we have the LFO, right? This is the speed, and then this is how much it's going to change the delay time, and this is how much it's going to change the delay filter. So let's take this down. All right, so now again, you don't hear that kind of like swirling effect. Oddly enough, it's kind of like in time. Let's go back here. I'm going to set this to like an 8th note, right? So now we're synced up to an 8th note, quarter note. All right, so again, you could hear, let's turn this off. Again, you could hear that there's like a little bit of like a filtering going on, right? Like a wub. If I change this, that's kind of cool because now it's in time, right? Because I'm doing 8th notes on the pattern, and also 8th notes on the delay. So that's kind of cool. 12th note. That's actually where it's at. That I like. All right. Let's try some higher values as well. I can always go back to the 12th note. All right, so let's try. I think we had a quarter note. It's kind of nice as well. Let's do that. Right? We want to lower the amount of the, you know, the what would you call that? Like a wah effect or like an auto filter effect. Right? Kind of something like that's nice, and you could just, it does give it a little bit of stereo, that movement from left to right. I kind of like it. Very subtle. See if you could check it out. Right? Just kind of makes it a bit bigger. It's a little too big. Alright. But again, gives it kind of like a nice stereo thing without too much of that filter, you know, swooshy, right? So kind of feeling this right here. All right, let's check out the delay. Let's turn this down. Remember that value. I'm just going to put this up here because, all right. Oh, something happened. All right, we'll just leave that alone. Okay, so let's try out the delay. All right, this is kind of fun. This is... Right, so again, what the delay is doing, or I'm sorry, what the LFO to the delay is doing is changing the time. Okay, so again, it kind of has like a scratch kind of effect to it. Right, because again, it's imitating old tape. Like if you take a record or like an old tape and speed it up, that's basically what we're doing here. Right, that's a little bit obnoxious. That's kind of dope. Right, I don't want it to be so obvious where people are like, yeah, I hear that, you know. I just want it to like add to the sound here. Oh, I'm gonna add the filter. All right, I think that sound. Change the shape of the LFO. Let's try something like that. Kind of like the sine wave. Sine waves are always the easiest, right? Super smooth. Okay, and then we also have the phase. All right, so I'm just gonna set it like that. Okay, and what's gonna happen is that's gonna get rid of the stereo. All right, so basically what we could do is we could shift the phase. It's actually, I lied. There's actually two LFOs that right now are 180 degrees at a phase, right? So when one's going up, the other's going down. And in this situation, what's going to happen is it's going to have a stereo effect, okay? So right now it's mono, right? Because the phase is set to 0. So they're both doing the same thing at the same time. Whereas in this case, they're 100% opposite. The other's going down, which is going to result in stereo in this case. Kind of like that 90. .180 is kind of cool. So again, now we're kind of like adding to that stereo space by putting these things 180 degrees at a phase, right? So again, basically they're the opposite, and you know, when one goes up, the other goes down, which results in this case in stereo. All right, cool. So that is the modulation section. Okay, you know, a little overview of it. I'm trying to run through all of this thing. Okay, so let's jump on to another. We're gonna just start from scratch for the next one, and let's hear it in context, right? So once we kind of tweak all our settings, we want to hear it in context, and then we could, you know, do a final. This thing needs a little bit more. There we go. So I'm gonna do a little bit of the clip. And again, now the whole thing has a lot more space. All right, so let's just go in. I'm just gonna make a quick toggle. And what I'm going to do is just toggle these two delays on and off, right? So every time I hit the Q, it's going to toggle both of these delays on and off. And we could hear the difference with the delays, all right? So here is without the delays. So again, this is without the delay. Right, this is with the delay. Right, without. Right, so again, you could just hear there's a bit more space. You know, it's not perfect at this point. You know, I just wanted to get something nice in there. I would continue to tweak. I would do the vocals. I get the vocals, then I would start, like, you know, the mixing thing. But again, I'm kind of happy where I am right now with the delays. Right now on the melody. All right, so let's jump on into the vocals. All right. For this one, we're just going to start with start from scratch. All right, so let's see. Questions. We're good. And cool. So let's move on. All right, so I'm just going to take the default echo and pop it in. All right, I mean, right off the bat, I kind of like that. I don't know if I tweaked the default or that is the default, but I mean, it just sounds. It just sounds like better right off the bat. So let's go in and tweak it a little bit. So yeah, I have the default echo, and it looks this. I mean, that to me is kind of perfect. All right, let's play with it a little bit. So again, I got the left at 32nd notes, the right at 16th notes. I believe I did tweak this a little bit. All right, and what about this? All right, so yeah, so here's my settings: 32nd on the left, 16th on the right. Input at 0, feedback 46, 25% reverb, post 16% delay, 22% dry wet, everything else the same. Filter like so. All right. All right, cool. So yeah, I just pulled up the filter on this because I want the vocals to be brighter, right? I kind of want this stuff, the melody, to be more in the background. I want the vocals to be a little bit more up front. So I'm going to want some higher frequencies in there, all right? All right, let's go to the modulation section, character section, all right? So I want to add a little bit of modulation. And I just want to go with the delay. Let's try this out. So I'm adding a little bit of the delay. Yeah, it doesn't really do much in this situation, but I'm just gonna leave it just because why not? But yeah, you don't really hear much of a difference. Yeah, it's kind of like it's either too much or you don't hear it, but whatever, we'll just leave it down here, right, at a cool 8.8%. Filter I'm not even gonna bother with, right? And we got to 8th notes. Let's try something a little longer, actually. Maybe that'll kind of be, or shorter. Let's try something short. Now we're actually. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So I set the rate to 1 bar, and yeah, there's like a little bit going on, right? Just a touch. Right. A little bit of something for the people with the crazy ears out there. All right. Filter I'm just gonna leave. And yeah, whatever. It's again, it's gonna be stereo because we have it 180 degrees out of phase. Let's just check the difference. Yeah, again, I want the delay to be stereo on the vocals. All right, not ridiculous, but I want there to be something there because again, my vocals are mono, and I want to add some, some stereo-ness to them. All right, so finally, let's jump over to the character page. Okay, and yeah, so we have some cool stuff here. Let's start with the most basic. Okay, we can add some noise. Right, as I mentioned, in the beginning, right, these things were notoriously noisy and imperfect, so we could add that to this. Okay. Oddly enough, a little bit of noise goes a long way. I'm not going to add it in. Usually I use these like tape machines. I'm not going to tell you which ones because I don't recommend the company. But I bought them before, whatever. But yeah, so I have a lot of these different effects that, add a little bit of noise to it. So I don't really want to add too much more here. Okay. Now, you don't see them because my iLock is not plugged in. So yeah, that's why they're coming up disabled, but whatever. Yeah, so noise, I don't really. Yeah. Just gonna do away with that. We can also change the sound of the noise. Yeah. Anyway, so let's continue. Let's go over my favorite part about this. All right. So because we're running out of time here. So my favorite part about this is the ducking section. Okay. And basically what this does is, right, ducking, people familiar with ducking, right? It's side chaining, right? Ducking, side chaining, right? A lot of producers, music people use the word side chaining, but what we're really doing is ducking. Okay, so ducking is basically when one signal automatically lowers another signal. It ducks the other signal. All right. A good example is if you're listening to the radio, what they'll do is they have the music and they have the MC or the DJ, whatever you want to call it, who's talking. Okay, and you ever notice that once the MC or the DJ starts talking, the music gets lowered? All right, that's like pulling down a fader when he is ready to talk. Or you could use something like a compressor to do it, music playing on the radio station. Okay, beautiful. So how does that fit into this? Well, what we have here is a way that we can only hear the delay and the reverb when there's no, okay? So basically the idea is like when we hear the original signal, we're not going to hear the delay, but in between, like here, and the silent parts, we'll hear the delay. Okay, so let's check it out. Here's like a decent pause. All right, so it's going to take a couple seconds to set it up. All right, so again, it's not going to delay and reverb when the voice is singing, okay? I mean, we could kind of set it up to be different than that, but that's kind of the gist of it. All right, so let's just leave it at this. I'm just going to turn the release down as low. Right, so let's crank up the feedback and the dry wet so we can kind of hear this. All right, so we could kind of hear it. He holds it like very low, okay, and I'll talk about hearing here. Right, so notice how this part is where we hear the delay. We don't hear it anywhere else, okay? And that's basically what the ducking thing does, okay? And a lot of people like to use something like that to kind of free up some space, all right? Because you kind of get the best of both worlds with this, right? You get the part where you have the effect, but it's also not, to create space, but then at the same time, you don't have the effect, so it's freeing up some space, all right? So again, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Cool, so let's talk, or this piece works, okay? So what we have is we have a threshold and a release, okay? So the threshold is basically like where you want this thing, like what volume level do you want it to trigger the effect, okay? So basically the way I have it here, well, let's go back to where it was. All right, so this is saying that do not, if a signal is louder than this, -48, which is pretty quiet, right? Like we look at a fader, like -48 is down here, all right? So if the signal is over this, or actually works the other way, I'm sorry. So once the signal goes under this level, let the delay play out, okay? So basically it's saying, when the original signal is very quiet, play the delay. Let's try a different part. Well, no, let's just use that. Mr. D, turn up the 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 bassline for me. Have a bad girl in the club, a wine for me. Me want to hear the Mr. D, turn up the bassline for me. All right, so cool. So let's play with the threshold and the release. All right, so release, it goes above this or below it, how long it's going to take to play the effect. Something along those lines. All right, to hear the delay. All right, so it's kind of going to play it pretty immediately at 20 milliseconds, right? All right, cool. And let's just turn this up again so we can hear it. All right, now as I raise this up, we're not going to really, right? We're not going to hear a difference between these parts, the quiet parts, and the loud parts, because again, it's just saying, you know, at 12 decibels, you know, play the delay. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to find that nice balance, right? Again, if it's too high, it's going to play the delay too much. If it's too low, it's not going to play the delay at all. All right, so we want to just kind of tweak these two controls to get a nice setting. All right. All right, I'm kind of cool with that. Now let's crank up the release a little bit, right? Because it's a little jump. Right, during these parts, when it, you know, this little area right here, this little area right there, when it goes below this volume, it's a little bit jumpy. So we could kind of smooth that. So here's without the ducking. All right, so let's hear it in context. So again, you know, a little bit to it, but I would say play around with it. All right, so yeah, so that's the basic idea. Again, it just, what you could do with this is when the original sound is playing, kind of get rid of the delay. All right, and same thing with a gate. You also have a gate here if you're familiar with how gates work. It'll only play the delay if it goes, you know, above or below the threshold, you know. Yeah, and then we have the wobble, and then the wobble is just gonna add a wobble to the delay, kind of like, you know, adding some modulation to the delay. It's kind of similar to that, a little bit more. Speed, and then amount is obviously how much wobble we want. It's kind of cool. I think with the ducking and the wobble, because it doesn't really, you don't really hear the wobble during the vocals, just after it. All right, cool. So let's add this. All right, so we got our toggle. Let's add this thing to the toggle. All right. And here's without the effect. So this is all the delays we added today. All right, set to the one toggle. All right, let's just make sure they're lined up. Yep. Okay, cool. So here it is without the delays. All right, so yeah, so here it is with the delays. Here it is without. Here it is with. And then without. Right, so no delays right now. Right, so to me it just gives it like a fluffier, just kind of a sound. All right, and you know, it just kind of sounds more polished, that sort of thing, with these different delays. Again, they're not 100% perfect. Now, since I put them in here, I will go back and, you know, tweak them a bit, right? So they're kind of sit really well together with each other. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this, the echo and the delays. All right, thanks again for coming by. Hopefully integrate some of these little techniques into your workflow and that they work out for you. All right, we got live streams multiple times a week here at Garnish Music Production, and definitely stop by. A lot of great knowledge, information, that sort of thing. And who does not like free knowledge and information? All right, never seen someone that did not like free knowledge and information. Anyway, also check out our website, garnishmusicproduction.com, and I will see you all next time. Have a good day.